In this demonstration, we're going to explore how to sculpt an eye onto a desired surface. There are many tools and resources that can be very useful in this exercise. One is a flat wooden tool with a rounded end. Another is a smaller wooden tool that imitates the finger but allows for more precise control. A wooden tool similar to the last, but with a more sharp curve that allows for greater detail in tight areas. A wooden needle tool is also useful, with a slight curve that allows for greater detail in tight areas. A double-ended metal tool with a rounded edge and also a flat edge are good for carving. A rubber tool is good for refining, with a pointed edge. Resources, such as a skull or drawings, can help you look at the bone structure. You're also going to need some clay, some soft clay that's easily moved, and also some harder clay that's easily formed and shaped. Step 1. Establishing a surface. For many of you, you may already have a surface. You might be building off of a head that you've created, or you might just be wanting to create an eye. So for this exercise, we're going to use a slab. Step 2. Building up the form. We're going to start building up the bone structure around the eye so that we have a better idea about where things are on our clay surface. So we're going to start taking some of our wetter clay and compressing it onto our slab surface. What we want to do is look back and forth at the skull or our resources on paper and try and replicate what we see. Try and pay attention to highs and lows in the bone structure. Work quickly, because remember that you can always change things. Keep adding clay and building up the structure. It'll be rough at first. Make sure that you compress. Compression is very important, otherwise the piece will fall apart. So I'm just adding clay, creating the forehead now, building up where the eyebrow bone will be. I'm smoothing and compressing and pinching. Step 3, developing the eyeball. So I'm going to take a chunk of this drier clay and just squeeze it into a ball. Then I'm going to take that ball and hold it up to my eye socket that I've created and kind of judge how much I need to take off. So I think this is a little big, so I'm going to start just squeezing with my 2 fingers, taking off pieces and making sure that I continually compress so I don't form any air bubbles. Hold it up again, it's still a little big, so I'm going to do that step again, take that back out, and then I'm going to kind of refine the iris and the pupil, which is step 4. I'm going to use my metal sculpting tool and kind of decipher where I think the iris edge will lie. I'm just going to take some of that material out. So I want this to look dark, like it's colored. So I'm going to take a little bit more of that material out. Take my wooden needle tool and kind of get the edges of the iris. Make those just a little bit deeper and a little bit darker. And also the pupil of the eye. Alright, so I have the eyeball and I'm going to fit it in there, see how it looks, see how it fits. It looks pretty good. Alright, step 5, attaching the eyeball. So what you're going to do is take your metal rib tool and scrape the back of the eyeball. You're also going to scrape your surface, and this way you can slip and score the 2 pieces together. Alright, step 6, developing the eyelid and under eye. So I'm going to take a slab of the harder clay and I'm going to use my knife and cut it into a kind of rectangular shape. And then what I'm going to do is hold it up to my product so far. So I'm going to take this over here and just kind of lay it on top of the piece. See what it looks like. Try and figure out where I'm going to want things. Making sure I pay attention to the bone structure. Alright, so this end is a little bit rough, so I want to flatten this out so it's nice and smooth like the end of your eyelid. So I'm just going to compress it with my 2 fingers. So I'm going to go to this image over here that I have of the muscles and kind of see where it lays over the bone structure and around the eye. I also have some drawn images where I can see kind of how the eyelid falls. When the eye's closed, when it's open, even a profile. For this exercise I'm going to do an open eye. So I kind of, after smoothed it out, laid it on top where I wanted it to go. And then I'm just kind of going to compress it onto that bone structure that I have. Alright, so next just take a look at your scrap pile and see if there's a shape pretty similar to the first one that you had before. If there's nothing in your scrap pile, just make another slab and cut it in about the same shape as the first time. Lay it on your piece, see how it fits, and then flatten out that eyelid just the same way you did the first part. Alright, so after I did that, I'm going to lay it on the eye here, kind of bend it a little bit to however I want, and if it starts to crack on the bottom there like that, just don't worry about it. You're going to smooth it out, compress, compress. Alright, so now I'm going to do the upper lid. That extra skin that kind of falls over that bottom part of the upper lid. So I'm going to compress this down just like we have these last 2 times, make it smooth, and then kind of find out where I think it fits best. Your image resources can come in handy because you can see where that bend happens. Smooth out the corners. Alright, so now take some of your moister clay, just a little chunk. And this is going to be used to kind of build up that lower part of the cheek that goes right under the eye. So in our image here, you can kind of see those creases that happen. Alright, so I'm going to take this here, kind of the pointed end, and go in towards that inner corner of the eye. Now I think I'm going to overlap just a little bit so that I have some place to compress that on there. Alright, and then I'm just going to press down and smooth that out. I'm going to go over here and get some more, and this piece is a little big, so I'm just going to take a little chunk off of it. I'm going to kind of compress that in that corner there where I feel like it's a little too deep. Kind of let it ride off the bridge of the nose there. So I'm going to push up a little bit here. Remember, there are all different ways that you can move the clay. Alright, so next I'm going to kind of go in with a tool, the rounded wooden knife tool, and I'm going to compress to refine those creases a little bit in the under eye. I'm going to kind of move in a downward angle. Now I don't just want to stab it, I want to move the clay. So I'm going to move it downward. Alright, then I'm going to go over here to look at this profile view. And look how that line directly under the eyelid kind of falls. If I go from the side view on my piece, I don't quite have that yet, so I want to kind of refine that crease that falls right under the eyelid there. To refine those curves and make them look exactly how I want them to look, I'm going to go downward a little bit here on this inside part of the eye. And then on the outside, I'm going to go straight out, but still a little bit downward. And go back to my resource and kind of look how it overlaps that bottom eyelid. So you take the top part and just kind of bring it over so that it looks like that bottom line is falling underneath there. I hope you enjoyed this demonstration and feel one step closer to sculpting a portrait in clay.